Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Tom Morgan Drum Studio. And now we're back in the book, A Sequential Approach to Fundamental Snare Drum. And remember that to make any sense out of these videos, you've got to have the book that I'm going through. And you can get that at callenpublications.com or hopefully at your local drum store or music store. I've been going through this book from the very beginning in this playlist, and so now I'm on page 61 and 62, 16th eighth note number 3 and number 4. And if you like these videos, by the way, please click like on them and also subscribe, because the more subscribers I have, the better, and that really helps me out. So if you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. All right, so let's start on page 61. I've got the snare drum out here. I'm going to play it on a snare drum today. And we see that it's in 6/8 time, and we want to play it with a kind of a lilt, that dotted quarter pulse feel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Okay? So be sure you do that. You might want to play it with a metronome and put the metronome on the dotted quarter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. So I was planning to do that on this video, and then I found out that my metronome that I've had for probably 40 years has completely gone kaput. So I've got to get a new metronome finally. I got a lot of mileage out of that one though. But anyway, I'll play it without a metronome, but I'm going to try to really make sure you hear the feel, or get the feel of that dotted quarter click. A couple other quick things. There's a lot of dynamic changes in this one and on 61. So a couple of things that may be not in your book that need to be there unless you have a real new one that they fixed. But the very last note of the 4th line, if you don't have it, there should be a forte marking there. So if it's just blank, put an F for forte under that last 8th note. And then going on to the next line, when you get to the 2nd measure, the piano that's at the beginning of that 2nd measure should be moved over to the 2nd note, the 2nd 8th note. And if it's not, then just, scribble it out and put the piano there. So the accented note is still forte. And then when you go to the very end of that line, this is the 5th line, in the 2nd beat, notice that you have a roll there. You should have a roll where that tie is that connects the first 2 notes there in the 2nd beat. If you don't have a roll indicated, then mark 2 slashes on the first 8th note. So it'll be played like 1 and 2, 3 with a buzz roll. Other than that, I think everything should be fine, and even those may be fine if your book is a newer one that they've fixed those problems. Okay, so here's 16th note etude number 3. Here's my pulse, the dotted quarter. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. last two lines go from pianissimo up to forte, and then forte back down to pianissimo. So you've got to control that dynamic, that crescendo, so that it peaks right at the right time, and then when it diminishes, it goes back down and hits pianissimo right at the right time. Okay? And I use, for the last four notes, I just play that with one hand. Just because it's a little easier to control when you're playing that soft. All right. All right, so now we're back with a cymbal and a snare drum for page 62, the 16th note, Etude number 4. And this introduces the idea of multiple percussion. We've already done some earlier ones in the book that introduce this. And so now we have two different sounds, a cymbal and a snare drum. And remember, multiple percussion has become a whole category of percussion music. Composers write for all kinds of different setups of percussion instruments. And so every time you play a multiple percussion piece, you have to learn this new setup, and you have to learn a new notation that the composers created for that setup. If you look at page 62, this is obviously a very simple one, but the top line is suspended cymbal, the bottom line is snare drum. The cymbal is going to be played at the very beginning on the bell of the cymbal. It says that in parentheses. And there's a diamond note head to indicate that. And then after that, you play in the middle of the cymbal. And that has the common X note head for that. That's really, I guess, the only other place you play on the bell of the cymbal is at the very end. There is another misprint that you may have in your book. It's the third line from the bottom, second to the last measure. That should be a roll from the end of 1 to 2. Hopefully yours is a copy that's already been corrected, but if not, just mark in 2 lines there, 2 slash marks for this. 1 and a 2 en. Okay. Now, if you use just, a logical sticking here, well, just pay attention as I play this. For example, at the beginning, I'm not going to go. Okay, there's no reason to do that. I'll just keep one hand on the cymbal. Okay, and one hand on the snare. But then, when I go on from there, it actually makes sense to go ahead and use our right hand lead system sticking to play the rest of it. So that works out fine to do that. And essentially you're going to use that sticking system most of the way through. When you get down to that middle section after the second ending, we're back on the bell of the cymbal there. And there's sometimes where you play the cymbal and the snare at the same time. But essentially it's an adaptation of the same sticking system that we've used. And if you watch me, you'll see how I'm sticking that. All right, pay careful attention to the dynamics. When you roll on a cymbal in this, just use a buzz roll, just like we've used on the snare. All right, here we go from the beginning. That's the quarter note. 1, 2, and ready, and go. That's the etude, number 4. And you notice when there's a cymbal indication with a line after it, that just means hit the cymbal and let it ring. And I crash it because it's loud. So I hit it either here or here with my stick going across the edge of the cymbal like that. And that gives me a good crash sound. All right, now if you look at 63, you notice it says you are now ready to start a sequential approach to rudimental snare drum. And that's the rudimental book, and I've been going through that one in a separate playlist on my channel here. But you're at the point now, if you started at the beginning, maybe you were a very beginner and you've now learned enough and gained enough technique to play this piece, then you know enough that you can go ahead and start the rudimental snare drum, where you're going to be learning how to play in the rudimental style, the marching style. Frankly, you could have started a little bit sooner than that, but now this is a good spot to be able to shift over. So you'd have to get a copy of that book, just like you have this one, A Sequential Approach to Rudimental Snare Drum, that you can get through callenpublications.com or through your local music store or drum shop. But get that book and you can kind of start going through that and continue to go through this one as we do more videos and take you to the end of this book. All right, be sure you subscribe if you haven't, and like the video if you liked it, and stay tuned because we're going to be doing a lot more videos in the coming days and weeks. All right, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.